Right, good evening all. I make it 6 o'clock, so I'll begin. So firstly, welcome to tonight's admin and regulation meeting. Happy 1st of November, everybody. So tonight, it's the 1st of November admin and regulation meeting. I'm just going to remind members of the rules before I begin. So this meeting this evening will be live stream meeting to the public. A recording of the public's part of the meeting will be available on the council's website within 24 hours of the meeting. This is the first occasion remote participants, so officers, will be joining the meeting. Would remote participants please use their hands up icon in Teams to indicate they have a question? Please turn on your camera and microphone when addressing the committee and off when you are not speaking. In-person attendees are required to wear face masks on entry to the building and meeting room, but they may remove them once seated. Would members and officers please remember to switch their microphones on when speaking and off when they are finished speaking. Please speak directly into the microphone. And would in-person attendees please switch off their mobile phones or put them in silent and scan the NHS COVID-19 contact tracing QR poster on the entrance of the council chamber, please. So beginning with the formal business of the meeting. Firstly, we have apologies for absence.
Apologies from Councillor Akbar, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Bert, sorry. Minutes, so the 30th of September 2021. These are from page 5 to 10. Has everyone had a chance to read these meetings and do we agree?
I agree.
Thank you. So section 106 Local Government and Finance Act.
Not applicable, Chair.
Disclosures of interest. Any urgent business?
None, Chair.
Thank you. Reference from other committees or bodies?
None, Chair.
So moving on to reports. First report is report number 7, Luton Model Whole School Pay Policy 2021. And I believe we have Sharon for this. Thank you. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you. With reference to the report and accompanying documents that you've received, I will set out the particular points to highlight. As set out in the report, my recommendation to the committee is to commend the Model Whole School Pay Policy 2021 to the governing bodies of schools with delegated budgets and for centrally employed teaching staff. The policy is amended each year to reflect the changes to teachers' pay as set out in the School Teachers' Pay and Conditions document. And the School Teachers' Pay and Conditions document sets out the framework for teachers' pay in England. I would therefore like to advise the committee to approve the updated model pay policy, which reflects the uplift of £250 to all teachers whose full-time equivalent basic earnings is less than £24,000, namely that points 1 to 3 on the unqualified teacher pay range are increased by £250 as per the School Teachers' Pay and Conditions document. We work closely with the teacher and support staff trade unions in schools. The trade unions have been consulted, having reviewed the policy and discussed the proposed changes to teachers' pay as set out within the policy at a meeting on the 15th of September 2021. The unions confirmed their support. I would therefore like to recommend that the model pay policy is approved by Admin and Regulations Committee for adoption for schools and centrally employed staff.
Thank you, Sharon. Does any members have any questions to this report? Yep.
Just one, please, Chair.
Yep.
Do we actually, as a council, have any say in this, or to what extent do we, or is it dictated by central government?
This is approved by central government and it's gone to central government for approval.
Does this cover academies as well as schools run directly by the council?
This, for the schools that purchase our service, for academies that purchase our service, we supply them a copy of this model pay policy, which they can choose to adopt or not with their governing bodies or trusts. So we supply them with the model pay policy, but it's their decision. Today I'm only here to talk about our community schools, for those schools with delegated budgets.
So it's up to them whether or not they accept it. It isn't imposed upon them like the council runs.
Not for academies, no.
Yeah.
Any other questions, members? Are members happy to approve the report? So thank you, Nikki.
Happy with that.
Yep, that's all agreed. Thank you, Sharon. So report number 8, moving on, we've got customer service operating model and staff update. I believe that's Nikki that's presenting the report. Oh, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the report is an update really on the implementation of budget cuts that were made as part of the emergency budget setting in response to COVID-19. It's a very brief paper that just really sort of outlines how the service has reduced the number of posts in the service area, and stressing that that was done through attrition of vacant posts, some voluntary redundancies, and as such there was no need for any compulsory redundancies of staff, but just here to provide members with the opportunity to ask questions in relation to the paper.
Thank you, Nikki. Do members have any questions regarding this report? Yep.
Afraid so. Just a simple question. How in practice do you believe, looking from the inside, that the service is operating at the moment? Because looking in from the outside and based upon communications from my residents to me, it's not running very well.
Okay. We have had challenges in the service, particularly from the last quarter of the last financial year, which has very much been around an increase in demand and a change in the profile of calls coming into the service centre. So the majority of residents who contact us do see their calls answered relatively quickly, so within the performance standard that we set. So that's true for the majority. We know, though, that it's not true for everybody, and we very, very closely look at the data in terms of what we can then implement. One of the challenges that we have is that at the moment, the infrastructure of the telephony system in the call centre is a little bit outdated. And that in part is due to the fact that we've got a corporate telephony contract, which is at the moment coming to the end of its life. So we are in the process now of working with our colleagues corporately to bring in a new contract, which will give us the opportunity then to have some of the more commercial solutions that people will be familiar with in your experience from using utility companies elsewhere. So to be specific, some of the things I'm talking around are where we have surging call volumes, which means that we've got a lot of people calling us in a short space of time. So irrespective of the number of advisors we have, we simply don't have the capacity to resource that there and then. The commercial solution to that, and what you'll see externally in lots of private sector and increasingly now some councils, is a system that will alert the caller at that point of the length of time that they're waiting, give them an opportunity to perhaps call back, or provide them with an opportunity whereby they can register their place in the queue and we will then call them back. And at the moment, that's not something that we have available to us. So we're a little bit restricted. Those peaks in demand have become more problematic because of the impact COVID has had on other service areas. So if you take something like council tax, for example, what we would expect to see ordinarily in a given year are a very high volume of calls, but spaced out across the course of the year in response to when our council in response to when our council tax colleagues make contact with residents. What we've seen over this past year is because of the impact of COVID and the restrictions that that's placed on some of other services, instead of undertaking that regular contact with residents, those other services have been compelled to sort of bottleneck that. So what we now see are sort of high volumes of contact being made at specific pinch points, which then make it much more difficult for us as a service to respond to. But overall, what I really would want to stress it, is that for the majority of customers, actually the response they get, whether that's through the telephony system or online, is a very positive one. And we know, though, because of the sheer numbers of customers that we're dealing with, there will be, it will feel like a large number of people for whom it has gone wrong, and they will be the customers contacting you. But for the majority, actually, the service they do receive is one I'm proud of.
When you say that we're moving towards different styles of system, what's the timescale in doing that? And will it include the things that I guess we're all used to these days, which is that you're given the option of a web chat with somebody. And are we going to move towards that as well? Because that tends to relieve some of the pressures. I do recognise that the only people that contact me as a counsellor and say are people who've had a bad experience, because you never hear from the others. That's the reality of life, unfortunately.
Yes, of course it is.
How to this to work, but didn't. Is the IT side of this still being led by Civica, or is this being done by external people?
Telephony is more complex. It's not necessarily a Civica provision. Civica do support us in terms of particularly in terms of some of the relationships with third parties and maintaining the system, but it's not primarily. They're not the primary provider of either our current system, and there would be no reason to anticipate them being a provider of a future system.
I know this will sound unpopular, but good.
Thank you, Chair. What was I going to ask? I've forgotten what I was going to ask. Oh, yes, it's more of an observation. A lot of my constituents are of my generation, and they're not, how we say, computer literate. They're not online, a lot of them. And when you say about going to websites and things like this, the shutters come down. You know, they just. Can we keep lines of communication open which don't rely upon customers having to go onto the internet and whatever? Yeah, just keep those lines, keep paper and telephone lines open to whoever needs and wants them. Thank you.
No, you're welcome, and I'm happy to respond to that. So for the reasons set out in this paper, in terms of obviously ensuring we're delivering value for money, we're very keen to promote the most efficient channels where they are suitable to the needs of the customers that we're dealing with. As a service, we have always, and I'm sure we will always continue to commit to providing support for customers who are unable to use those channels where they exist. And again, just as you mentioned, Councillor, when members will have, I think, a disproportionate view, because those customers who come to you around these issues will disproportionately be those that have had difficulty. We do very closely monitor the feedback on our online channels, and I'm really pleased to advise that over the course of last year, we had over 17,000 customers who provided feedback having used one of our online forms, and the average satisfaction rating for those customers is 4.5 out of 5, where 5 is good. So I probably wouldn't be as enthusiastic about sharing it. For those customers who that isn't the right channel for, we as a service, we provide a range of support for them. For those who need a bit of help to get online, we'll encourage them to do that, because actually it's not just the council that are using digital channels more frequently, and we are quite concerned about residents who are excluded from digital and online services. So we will, as a first port of call, try and help them to use our systems, and also then provide them with the training and the support for them to be able to access other organisation systems as well. Where that's completely, where that's not a suitable option, then absolutely our telephony service and our face-to-face function is always going to be in place for those that need it.
Just one more comment, if I may, comment this time. I have to say my personal experience has been that going through to the general number in the town hall has improved recently in my personal view. I found that the waiting time typically is less, and if I take, for example, the calls I've made today, which I think was 3, in 2 out of the 3 cases, the attitude and helpfulness of the people that I talked to was really very good, which is a significant improvement on what I found going back maybe 6 months ago.
Just going back to your answer to me, you said about the survey, but you mentioned it was an online survey. So a lot of the people I'm thinking of most didn't touch the sides, as it were.
Yeah, so the survey is a feedback function. So anytime anybody does one of the online forms, they're then asked to give feedback on that form. And as I said, what our digital colleagues then do is not only sort of champion the positive feedback they get, but they will action the critical feedback. So that's on a trajectory of improvement as well at 4.5. Obviously, yeah, for those residents who haven't gone through the digital channel in the first place, they won't have the opportunity to provide that feedback. But it's just, I think, I suppose, to provide reassurance that for the majority of customers who do use that, it's a positive experience, and it ties in, I think, as well with what most people will expect now around the convenience of being able to access something 24/7, as opposed obviously to our more people-oriented services, which are still sort of operating hours.
Yeah, just it would be nice if some of those who contact you via the old-fashioned ways, if you could post them a survey just to sort of get a taster of what they're thinking at their end. Because at the moment it seems like it's all the online customers who are giving you their feedback. It'd be interested on the non-online customers as well.
So we do deploy some other means as well of assessing customer satisfaction. So the survey that I mentioned was specifically around each individual form. So each form will ask customers for their feedback, and that's a development tool for that online offer. More broadly, we do wider engagement, and as part of the development of the new strategy, we'll be consulting with customers through a variety of means as well, not just online ones.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Questions? No. Do members agree and approve the report?
Yes.
Yep. So that's all agreed for you, Nikki. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies. Right. So the final item for this evening is a draft Admin and Regulation Committee work programme. I think I have Sharon, a different Sharon, but another Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Yep, ready.
Hello, so I'm here on behalf of Aidan Wilkie to present the work programme. So the work programme for the remainder of the year was included in your documents. You can see for the next meeting on the 15th of December, we've got 3 agenda items, and it follows that pattern really for the rest of the year. There are no additional meetings requested at present for anything before the 15th of December. Are members happy to note? Well, that's your question, isn't it? But so members are asked to note the items and to identify any possible items that we might need to include on future agendas. Thank you.
Are members happy with this? Is there anything we'd like to add, amend or change for 15th of December? Yep. 3 seems like a good number. So yeah, there we are. That's all done for you. That's all fine and agreed and approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies. Right, that concludes tonight's meeting of Admin and Regulation.